friendo, Steve here. Welcome back to the channel. It's time for another Ask Wrestle Juice. Guys left a bunch of great questions over at the community thread that I posted. So we're going to dive right into this. First up with a question from Panda Fan 400. He says, do you think Cody will return to AEW or will he go to WWE? It seems like it's a bit like I don't even know if he's going to go to either one now. So this is fascinating. I woke up this morning and I came across this on Twitter. So Dave Meltzer, the Wrestling Observer himself, I believe he's pretty well tuned in, at least on the AEW side, maybe on the WWE side as well. He doesn't have a perfect track record, but he's got a track record. He said this: definite change in Cody/WWE status. Creative was told last night. Meltzer then elaborated in a post on the Wrestling Observer message board. Creative was told last night a change in Cody's status from sure thing to uncertain. Following that, Wrestling Observer writer Ryan Frederick said the following on the message board. This is from him. It's pretty obvious he got a big offer from WWE when his deal was up. The announcement came he was leaving AEW, and the original offer he got was tore up, and he was offered less to the point where he might not even go. Pure Vince play there. Cody lost his leverage when the leaving AEW announcement was made. Ooh, that hurts. That stings. Now, let's assume for a second, this is a big assumption that this is all correct. Okay, we're not there. We don't have, this is my best friend saying it. This is people getting this info from people who probably got it from people. Okay, so this is just for the sake of speculation. Does Cody go anywhere at this point? Or does he just try to break into Hollywood or do something completely different in pro wrestling? Because this seems like it sucks. Could you imagine? Tony, you're not going to pay me enough money, nor are you going to give me the creative control I want. And WWE sent me a big old offer because my deal was up. And if he had just stayed quiet and not even told Tony Khan, which would be fucked up because I don't think Cody's like that, and just went to WWE, he would have got this huge bag, huge deal in WWE. AEW be left just sort of hanging, right? Probably a bad way to do business if you're Cody because you don't want to burn any bridges, and that's a big burn bridge. But AEW makes this big statement. You make a big statement. Tony Khan makes a big statement. And then WWE is like, well, you haven't signed shit yet, man. So now we're going to cut this offer down quite a bit, significantly. We want you to come back as Stardust or something like that. I don't know. Cody's like, oh, fuck. I just left AEW. I can't go back there. Like, if you're a human being and you left a place, you made a big thing, and then you got played a fool by WWE, how are you going to go back to AEW? How can you do that? Or how can you go to WWE and be like, okay, fine, I guess I'll take the lesser offer. This sucks, but I get to be at WrestleMania. That's like terrible. That's awful. So I don't know. If I was him, if it was me, and I had a bunch of money saved up, which hopefully he did. I know he's got a big old house. I would do nothing. I would sit on my ass for a year. I would just chill. I'd maybe try to take on some more TV stuff. And then I'd make a return. Then it would be okay to take a shittier offer from WWE. Then it'd be okay to go back to AEW. From Cody, I'm like, man, I got this new kid. I'm going to hang out at home. I'm going to eat some nachos. I'm going to do a whole lot of nothing. I'm going to catch up on all the shows that I haven't watched. I'm going to watch the rest of The Wire because I didn't finish that. I'm going to catch up on all this. Hey, there's a lot of Star Trek out there, Cody. Listen, Cody, if you're watching, there's a lot of Star Trek out there right now. Just sit back, watch some Discovery, watch the new episodes of Picard. There's a lot. Enjoy that for the next year because you can't go back now, buddy. You got to wait a year. Wait till next year's Revolution. Come back. They'll be like, oh, man, that's great. It's been gone for a while. Yeah, it's because he got played, man. Woo. That one sucks. That hurts.
I hate to lose.
From user RedTube. If AEW establishes Ring of Honor as their second brand, who do you think AEW's Ring of Honor should be built around? I actually kind of answered this question the other day with my Ring of Honor AEW video, but I'll sort of reiterate here. I think if you keep Gresham as your top champion guy and you fill Ring of Honor with guys who are going to be sort of AEW's future 5 years from now. I'm talking about Daniel Garcia, Lee Moriarty, guys like that, Wheeler Yuta perhaps. I think those are the guys that you populate Ring of Honor with. Maybe you put some veteran talent there, maybe guys who have done a lot already on main roster in AEW. I say main roster, I mean Dynamite, of course. So like maybe FTR, the Briscoes would stay in Ring of Honor if they're going to be signing with the company. So maybe that's the direction you head. I personally think that a guy like Jungle Boy, once him and Luchasaurus drop those tag titles, could probably use some time in AEW's NXT if that's indeed what they're going to do with Ring of Honor. And maybe they can experiment with his character a little bit, get his chops up on the mic a little bit. I think that might not be a terrible move right there. So yeah, that's what I would do. Shavon asks, with the purchase of Ring of Honor, could this be the brand split fans have been hoping for? Yeah, I think so. I think, you can relieve some of the pressure from everybody that you've signed, and you can allow the younger talent who isn't going to break past the Mox, Brian Danielson, CM Punk ceiling, even the Sammy Guevara ceiling, who, he's clearly ahead in MJF of guys like Garcia, like Lee Moriarty, guys like that. Those guys are going to have a hard time breaking through when there's already young people that are already sort of at the top of AEW or relatively at the top of AEW. You put them on the different brand, have them elevate all the way up, and then they hop over as a bigger deal, the way that the call-up should have been handled from NXT to WWE's main roster. Tristan A., what sort of changes do you think AEW will make regarding Ring of Honor? He says, we've already mentioned TV production and visual appeal. What other changes would you like to see? I think one of the biggest changes is going to be, so Ring of Honor, for all the great talent they did have towards the final days, it was a mishmash of types of wrestlers and genres of wrestling. And in my opinion, when I would watch it, it didn't really all seem to fit together. And I think that AEW does that really well. I think they do. They handle different genres of wrestling really well. So maybe they can make Ring of Honor a more focused product in that respect. Of course, obviously, the TV aspect of things, freshening up that product, making it feel a little bit more urgent, I think is a necessity for the new Ring of Honor if they're going to continue to run that show. James R. says, thoughts on Tony potentially asking William Regal to run Ring of Honor. Do you think Regal would want to? I don't know. I'm not in his head. I can't tell. I just would love to see more William Regal on my TV, and he would be he'd be a draw for me. I would definitely watch it if a guy like William Regal was there. I think he's terrific. Let's see here. Charlie Black asked, now that Tony owns Ring of Honor, do you think they're going to have their own roster, or are they going to keep all those freelancers? I think that it's probably going to be along the same lines as Dark and Elevation. It's going to be a mix of people who are AEW and freelancers who come in, and maybe if the freelancers sort of prove their mettle or whatever, they'll get sort of developmental style deals with Ring of Honor, which might not be as lucrative as AEW, but it still allows them to take independent dates, and it allows them to build their brand within Ring of Honor. Let's see here. King Soul wants to pivot. Says, what are your biggest takeaways from the Vince and Pat McAfee interview? I really enjoyed this interview. I thought it was as candid as you could expect from Vince McMahon. He was with a friendly personality. Pat McAfee, obviously they have a good relationship. So it's not like Pat was going to sit there and give him a 60-minute style interview where he's tossing hardball after hardball. Does anybody here watch 60 Minutes? I don't really anymore. That's the first thing that popped to the top of my head. But no, I liked what I thought the most interesting stuff to me. Look, he's not going to give any in-depth answers on the Saudi Arabia stuff, nothing controversial. I thought the most interesting takeaway was, his creative insight, how on one hand, he was a little bit, contradictory when he says things like, when you have an audience out there, you can read them and you can tell what's getting over and what isn't, what's working and what's not. And then Pat said, well, how did you do it during Thunderdome when there wasn't a live crowd? And Vince says, well, you could still tell what's working, which to me just meant that Vince doesn't really pay attention to the crowd. He pays attention to himself. So that was interesting. I thought some of the creative questions were interesting. Me and Larson did a whole 40-minute long video on this with all our takeaways from the interview. But mainly it was how candid Vince was. It was his insight in terms of the creative process, and how fascinating it would be as an individual to be able to sort of compartmentalize as well as Vince does. He's got family, he's got business, and the business kind of means more than everything else in his life. And it's an interesting thing that somebody's able to do that. I personally wouldn't be the type to do that. I'd like to keep the family first, and that sort of matters most. And then everything else sort of has to revolve around that. Vince McMahon is a different animal. Business first, and then everything, including family, comes second. Kind of interesting. I don't understand that particular line of thought, but it's definitely something that Vince has succeeded with. Luke Crowther says, hey Steve, where do you see the wrestling landscape looking in 10 to 20 years time? Do you think wrestlers will continue to improve in-ring ability? Yes, I do. I take a look at Vikingo over in AAA, and I see that dude being the future of the company. People doing even cooler stuff. People understanding ring psychology even more. I don't see any reason why the storytelling aspect of wrestling cannot continue to get better and better. I mean, we've seen Okada, a couple of years ago, Okada and Omega took storytelling in ring even further than I ever thought it could go. And I feel like wrestlers are going to continue to advance those ideas. So yeah, I think in 10 years, wrestling is going to be even better. I think in 20 years, it's going to be even better than that. As far as the business aspect of things, I have no idea. It's a very bizarre business. Cam says, should Undertaker be a solo inductee into the Hall of Fame this year? No, I don't think so. I think that, he's a huge name, obviously, but no, there's too many other people. I feel like that WWE can put in the Hall of Fame. And every year that they wouldn't put people in is another missed opportunity. So no, I don't think that's the case. Let's see here. More Ring of Honor questions. Sandman asks, is treating Ring of Honor as developmental a good idea for the brand itself? I feel it would devalue the prestige that the Ring of Honor name used to carry with it. The key sort of point there is used to. If Ring of Honor, if Tony, I think this is the point. If Tony Khan can somehow get Ring of Honor to the level of buzzworthiness that NXT had, which I think is entirely possible, then mission accomplished. Then I think you'll have brought Ring of Honor to a much more relevant place than it was 6 months ago or a year ago. Let's see here. No Haven says, do you think it would better benefit AEW if they team up with an already established streaming service like HBO Max, or make their own service? 1,000,000%. It's getting on a popular streaming service. It's a no-brainer. Costs a lot of money and infrastructure to run your own streaming service. You have to market it. You have to collect, the membership fees to those streaming services, where if you license it to HBO Max, you know what you're getting. You're getting a big lump sum figure, and they do the rest of it. You're already on a streaming app. There's only so many streaming apps that people can afford these days. There's a ton of them out there, so people are picky and choosy. If you're with HBO Max, you're in a massive amount of households. If you're starting your own, you're only marketing to your own audience, and you have to try to get more money out of their wallets. If you're on HBO Max, you're already in those homes, and they will give you a ton of money for your content if that's the situation. So I don't see any upside to having your own service at all. Don't see it. I simply don't see it. Let's see here. Reaver Valentine. Now that AEW's bought Ring of Honor, do you think anyone from Ring of Honor will appear in the AEW video game? Probably not, but maybe if they do a sequel, I could see if the first one's popular and they do another one, I could see Ring of Honor being its own sort of subdivision. If they're going to do Ring of Honor stuff that's sort of like, current or whatever. Let's see here. The JM Domingo, do you think Jonathan Gresham will still be heavily involved in Ring of Honor moving forward? I think probably, if reports are correct that he's been backstage at AEW programming, it wouldn't shock me if Tony Khan really liked what he had to offer and wanted to base Ring of Honor, at least initially, around that type of wrestling, the really, really good in-ring product. And he is the guy when it comes to that right now. So I absolutely think that'd be the case. Down the line, would he move up to main roster? Who knows? Probably. But I'm excited to find out what happens with all that. Red Tube again asks, with Jeff Hardy more than likely going to AEW, would you like to see him feud with CM Punk? Sure, I think that'd be great. Revisit that. I don't see any problem with that. I think they're smart enough to not just tread familiar ground like WWE has with Jeff Hardy in the past. Brent asks, are you planning on getting 2K22? If so, what are you most excited to do in the game? I'm really antsy to see what the actual gameplay is like, how intuitive it is. The 2K20 was a massive downgrade from even the previous year. It was a giant hunking piece of shit. And 2K22, I'm looking forward to seeing if they can just build a solid game, a game that plays match to match. It plays well and consistent. And what do you call it? The collision physics are correct and all that kind of stuff. That's what I'm most looking forward to. From what I understand, there's been some downgrades in terms of the custom character creation. I read somewhere that you can't body morph anymore, which really bums me out. So I don't know. We'll see. You know, we're starting from scratch again with 2K22. Hopefully they'll get it right, but who knows? Anyways, that's going to do it for today's episode of Ask WrestleJuice. Thanks everybody for your terrific comments. I'm going to try to answer some more of these in the actual community thread. Do me a huge favor if you can. Give this video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button. And remember, we're going to be doing our AEW Revolution watch along live at twitch.tv/Steven Larson. Myself, Larson the Enforcer. It should be a lot of fun. I'm going to be back here on Monday with my Revolution short form review. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I appreciate it. Check out one of these other videos while you're here. You guys might be able to see. There she is. There she is. Hey, what's this? Oh. Jeb, what's this? Hey, what's this? What's this? Oh my gosh. No mind. Pays me no mind whatsoever.